Like and subscribe and click the bell icon to get new video updates.
Ex-William Tyrrell cop Gary Jubelin grilled in witness box. Former top William Tyrrell cop Gary Jubelin has been grilled by a judge over his use of disproved historical sexual assault charges to wrongly target a washing machine repairman in the missing toddler case. Mr. Jubelin spent Tuesday in the witness box of the NSW Supreme Court being questioned by lawyers for Bill Spedding. Mr. Jubelin repeatedly said I can't recall in response to questions about using the child sex allegations thrown out of court years before to gain leverage over Mr. Spedding as a potential William Tyrrell suspect. He said the William Tyrrell case was of such magnitude that he was distracted from the child sex assault case against Mr. Spedding, which he described as a side issue. Adrian Cancery for Mr. Spedding quoted from the ex-detective's best-selling book I Catch Killers, in which he wrote, I am about to pull the trigger on a guy's life. This was Mr. Jubelin describing charging Mr. Spedding, who in the book he said is weird. Has a strange nasal voice and a sly way of answering questions. The child sex assault charges from 1987, which were dismissed at trial in 2016, had been previously rejected by a judge years earlier because the female complainants were found to have been coached. Plus 10 View Gallery. Mr. Spedding claims ex-cop Gary Jubelin had it in for him, and used the false allegations to nobble him as a suspect in the disappearance of William Tyrrell. Plus 10 View Gallery. Mr. Spedding's home was searched and media were tipped off 5 months after he visited the Kendall home from which William Tyrrell, aged 3, vanished in September 2014. Plus 10 View Gallery. Bill Spedding arrives at the NSW Supreme Court where he is suing the state of NSW for malicious prosecution over historical sexual allegations which were dismissed. Mr. Jubelin said he couldn't recall details about those findings, can't recall details about child welfare files on Mr. Spedding and children, and had only a vague recollection of attending the trial at which Mr. Spedding was acquitted. Justice Ian Harrison, who is presiding over Mr. Spedding's malicious prosecution suit against the state of NSW, which has heard Mr. Jubelin is in effect a defendant, interrupted to pose a series of questions the former William Tyrrell case boss. In 12 consecutive questions His Honor asked Mr. Jubelin what he knew about the discounted sex allegations, and whether he used them as a way to put extra pressure on Mr. Spedding to crack him open on Tyrrell. After initially denying that was his tactic, Mr. Jubelin eventually agreed. Justice Harrison, what would you say if it were suggested to you that proceedings against Mr. Spedding, for sexual assault allegations 30 years before had been instituted against him to put pressure on him in relation to William Tyrrell? Gary Jubelin, I would strongly deny it. J.H. Was it your hope or desire that charging him with sexual assault allegations would be enough to crack him open on William Tyrrell? G.J. The charge came first, then the consideration of what we would do with the circumstances. J.H. Would I be correct to read if he is hiding something, maybe this, the sexual allegations charges, is enough to crack him open? G.J. That is not an unfair reading. Plus 10 View Gallery. A court has heard ex-cop Gary Jubelin frightened an innocent tradie Bill Spedding during the William Tyrrell case by saying, Mr. Nice washing machine man, I am going to ruin you. Plus 10 View Gallery. Bill Spedding is suing the state of NSW for malicious prosecution over historical sex assault charges laid against him during the William Tyrrell investigation. Mr. Jubelin agreed that the quote in his book about putting a trigger on Bill Spedding's life sounds dramatic. But bear in mind it is a memoir. Asked by Mr. Cancery if it is a fact you pulled the trigger on Mr. Spedding's life, Mr. Jubelin replied, I understand the seriousness of charging a person and the effect it would have on his life. He acknowledged that in I Catch Killers he had written that charging Mr. Spedding with the crimes and getting it wrong would destroy him. Mr. Cancery, there will be public court hearings at which he will be accused of being a pedophile. Mr. Jubelin, I don't rush into charging him, I understand the magnitude. It is not taken lightly. Mr. Cancery, you would agree it has essentially destroyed him? Mr. Jubelin, I would agree it has had a dramatic impact. Asked if he would agree after Mr. Spedding being charged, he would be seen as a pedophile. Mr. Jubelin said that would be fair comment. Mr. Spedding was later cleared of any involvement in William Tyrrell's disappearance. Plus 10 View Gallery. The court heard that Bill Spedding has lost 20 kilograms and that his life had been destroyed by false allegations over child sex charges and the abduction of William Tyrrell in